Piers. And the bottom line is you take an entire conversation that I had with Mark Lamont Hill and pick the bits that you can racialize because this is your shtick.
Hey everyone, so today we have quite the treat. Joy Reid, who was fired from her cable TV show, made an appearance on Piers Morgan for reasons that I don't totally comprehend. Nonetheless, it's extraordinarily entertaining, maybe the best TV of the year. Let's take a look.
That's Idi Amin behavior. There's a black fascist that you can compare it to.
Okay, let's move on to, I want to just play a clip of when you lost your job at MSNBC. Let's watch this.
My show had value and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think whether it's talking about any of these issues, and yes, whether it's talking about Gaza and the fact that we as the American people have a right to object, to little babies being bombed. And I am not sorry that I stood up for those things, because those things are of God. And you know, I'm a church girl too, and those are the things that I was taught were of God. And so I'm not sorry. I'm just proud of my show.
Now, look, you're perfectly entitled to be proud of your show. Many people enjoyed your show for many years. You know, a lot of people at NBC were briefing that the reason was declining ratings post the election, a 47% decrease in your election, in ratings from pre-election. But you told Mark Lamont Hill on his show this.
After I said on my show that the reason Americans
in ratings from pre-election, but you told Mark Lamont Hill on his show this.
So before we get to Reid's comments here, seeing her face in this video as compared to her face in the previous video, there appears to be some sort of discrepancy. I don't know if it's just the lighting or perhaps there's a filter, but there is some sort of difference which was made quite obvious by Piers playing that video. Now, I'll speak for myself here, but when I think about God or holiness or something sacred, I don't think of cable television. Certainly, I don't think of MSNBC, and I'm quite certain I've never thought of Joy Reid's show as promoting any version of what you'd find in the Bible. Then again, I can't say that I was ever a regular viewer, so it's totally possible that Reid spent the majority of her airtime interpreting scripture.
After I said on my show that the reason Americans could relate to Ukrainians in a way that they didn't relate to Palestinians, that Ukrainians are white. And so watching white people get their schools bombed was, you know, hit different. That hit our ratings. I mean, it definitely, we could see the loss of white viewers from that moment that I said that. Right. So they were like, we don't like the name calling. And also I'm a black woman. So, I mean, I'm sure it makes him angrier, you know, when I say things. Maybe because I am a global South person myself, you know, I mean, as a black person, we have a different empathy toward other global South people when they are suffering. And so we're going to come at that story from a different angle and in a different way and with different kinds of empathies. And I think that's not always received very well in the news business.
Now, Joy, I mean, look, let's be honest. I don't think you were fired after all those years because of your skin color or because you're a black woman. I think you were fired because your show just got increasingly unpopular. It happens all the time in TV. That's why you got let go. Why play the race card?
First of all, I love the fact that your play the race card is your version of the race card. You literally are so fixated on trying to racialize conversations with me, Piers. I find it actually quite charming.
You racialize more.
I mean, that seems like an absurd assertion, given that in the previous clip, Joy Reid asserts that one's feelings towards an international conflict are going to be decided on the basis of genetic proximity to the group affected. Joy seems like maybe she was surprised that she had a downtick in white viewership after airing comments like that, but any reasonable person could speculate that some white liberals probably wouldn't take too kindly to being called racist for supporting Ukraine, which they tend to do. But based on their faces here, they are about to get into it, so let's take a look at that.
All
It's almost
conversations
no,
in
no,
your
excuse me, I'm having
tenure
a
at
conversation with Mark Lamont Hill
MSNBC
that you're
than any
clipping bits
host
of.
in
All right,
history.
all right, Mark.
Come
All right,
on.
Piers. And the bottom line is you take an entire conversation that I had with Mark Lamont Hill and pick the bits that you can racialize because this is your shtick. And I get that this is your
You
shtick. I
racialize
understand this
everything,
is how you
Joy.
roll.
Come on.
I get it. I understand this is your shtick, Piers. And listen, game recognized the game. I get this is
It's
your
not
game.
my shtick.
And the bottom line.
It was your
It
shtick.
is your shtick. And everyone knows that it is.
Shtick.
Piers, we
And people
understand
got bored
what
with
it is.
it.
And it is so interesting to me that you yourself, as a white European, find that when people of color talk about race, that you believe is racializing conversations. But when people like you fixate on, well, Barack Obama was a black president, why don't you object to that? That is racializing a conversation about the former president of the United States. But you can't put your, and I'm sure you find that charming and funny.
I find
You
it hilarious
cannot
because
see
you're the
your
one.
own-
You're
Well,
the one
you
who said
and your
you're
friend
the one
Donald
who said
Trump,
Donald Trump.
You and your friend Donald
You
Trump.
said Donald
you and
Trump
your
is a
friend
white
Donald Trump
fascist.
Are so he is a well. I agree
And
with.
you-
So Joy Reid can barely stop herself from immediately calling Donald Trump a white fascist. I'm just surprised that she didn't go the typical middle-aged liberal route and call him an orange fascist or something. But regardless, yes, as Reid seemed to admit in the previous clip, she basically has one lens through which to filter all of reality. And that lens is that people of color, as she says, have been suffering at the hands of white people. And so you can predict with a pretty good degree of confidence what her response to nearly anything is going to be. I mean, I would love to read, let's say, a Joy Reid review of classic literature. Let's get Joy Reid's take on the Odyssey. Is Calypso, this island goddess, Caribbean coded? I don't know. I would have to ask Joy Reid for those answers.
But Obama did the same thing.
Last time I checked, is
I'm not allowed
black.
to mention his skin
I
color.
agree with his former chief of staff, who last I checked was not black and said he's fascist. And Mark Milley said he's fascist to the core.
Okay.
So I happen to agree, and I know this is what it's important to you, with two very white gentlemen about Donald Trump's fascist tendencies.
Okay.
If that makes you sad and uncomfortable, I can't help you.
No,
Piers.
it doesn't
There's
make me
nothing
sad
I
and
can do about
uncomfortable.
it.
I think it makes you a little bit of a hypocrite, but that's different.
Well, yes, after all, hypocrisy is to an MSNBC host as water is to a fish. It seems like she's saying that fascism is a spectrum with people who are fascist to the core on one end and people who only sort of dabble in it on the other.